I thank the member and I now call the member for Stirling.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Well, it's a real pleasure today to rise to speak about Australia's Pacific Step Up program, of course focused upon building prosperity right across our region, recognising also that Australia is part of the Pacific family. I've got some personal experience in this space as well, having deployed to Solomon Islands as the second in command of a company group, which was the first infantry deployment as part of the Regional Assistance Mission to Solomon Islands. Well, you can imagine my excitement as a young, newly promoted captain, having previously deployed as a platoon commander to East Timor, to now be getting ready to go overseas and work in support of our region and its interests again. So we were poring over maps and satellite imagery and looking at the different threat forces, but also looking at some of the region's history, some of the language and some of the culture. And one of the things that we learned about as we looked into both language and culture was this concept of Wontok. And Wontok in Tok Pisin literally means one language, but it has a cultural meaning much more significant than that. It talks about the Melanesian cultural practice of relying on one's Wontoks, those who speak the language, those who can share in the good times and the bad. And ultimately, this was what Australia was doing at that point in time with Ramsay, was being a good neighbour, being a good Wontok. The name of that operation was Help'em Friend, which translates into a helping friend, and certainly that's what we were there to do. So this Pacific peacemaking and nation-building operation saw the deployment of about 300 police personnel, 1,700 military people, and also a range of other personnel from 9 countries, including Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, PNG, Tonga, Samoa, Vanuatu, Kiribati and Cook Island. So as well as military and police, there were also judges, lawyers, bureaucrats, because this was truly a holistic government effort to seek to, yes, provide security, but also, once we did manage to arrest the criminals who were the cause of the unrest, also to be able to reliably prosecute and incarcerate them as well. I was also pleased to lead the first outpost to the Weather Coast, which is a very remote area on the southern side of the island of Guadalcanal. And I figured out why they call it the Weather Coast, Mr Deputy Speaker, because it rained for about the first 10 days and we struggled to keep ourselves out of water as we slept. But an amazing opportunity to go and engage with local village chiefs, to talk about why we were there, do that hand in hand with police and medical personnel as well. And the outcomes were fantastic. We had a great deal of cooperation. In fact, we had people coming to hand in weapons, and overall we collected more than 3,700 weapons, about 700 high-powered military-style weapons, and collected those and destroyed them, and did that quite publicly to be able to send a message that no longer would violence be tolerated in these local communities. So Australia has always been a very close friend, a Wontok to our regional neighbours, but there's never been a more vital time for Australia to stand with our Pacific family than right now in the heat of the global pandemic of COVID-19. We've seen heavy impacts on the economies, on the livelihoods of our Pacific neighbours. Of course, impacts on these communities who are so reliant on tourism and on remittance flows, and this has seen significant economic downturn. So Australia's ability to respond has been increased because of our step up, but we are also remaining agile and adapting programs to suit. For example, we have seen the reconfiguration of our programs, such as the Pacific Fusion Centre, which is now collating information about COVID-19 and arming our regional decision makers with that information, or our Pacific Women's Program, expanding support for crisis centres to provide frontline services such as counselling for survivors of domestic violence. And also new visa arrangements to support those workers who are unable to travel back home, to ensure they can remain here in Australia for up to 12 months. And of course, we also have our $2 billion Australian infrastructure financing facility for the Pacific, and this is part of our very long-term objective to promote economic growth in our region. So, Mr Deputy Speaker, the Pacific Step Up has seen our support to our long-endured commitment to see economic development and security and prosperity with our Wontoks.